about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. I'm just blown away at how people are just, they won't let RFK Jr. just do his job. Let the HHS secretary look at causes of autism. Let him look at food dyes. Let him look at why we are, one of the most unhealthy populations in one of the richest countries on the globe. And no, just because he supports Trump, everybody is, they're tweaking the science. And, I'm watching this autism debate, which should not be a debate. Autism cases are rising. Autism cases are rising. Let's figure it out. That really shouldn't be a debate. But boy, are people picking and tweaking the whole topic of conversation just to be anti-MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. And I don't understand why they're going through so much effort. If you just took 1/1000th the time and effort that you're using to spew hatred towards the current administration, you could actually get, a lot done, in terms of autism research. And can you redirect some of that time and effort? But no. So one of the recent analyses based on data for 2022 is autism cases are at 1 in 31 of the 8-year-old age group. And so we do know that autism has been rising. It shouldn't be, but it is. 1 in 31, which basically means at least one kid in every classroom has autism. It is higher, according to the report, in Asian, Pacific Islander, Black, and Hispanic children, 8 years old than white children, but still rising in all demographics. And the study had looked at children between 4 and 8 years old at 16 sites across 14 states at the contiguous U.S. and Puerto Rico. Kids were classified as having autism if they had ever received a positive diagnostic statement after a screening assessment and special education eligibility related to autism, or met the criteria for 1 or 2 possible sets of international clinical guidelines. So, they believe that it wasn't an overdiagnosis, that this was, as accurate as they could be. But in a statement on the research, the Autism Society highlighted that the paper challenges outdated myths, namely that autism affects people of all backgrounds, that access to screening is a key factor, and that access to affordable screening and care is paramount. Now, when RFK Jr. had spoken about autism, saying he needs to, and he is planning on finding the cause by this September, making that a goal, he said the autism epidemic is running rampant. He said the autism epidemic has now reached a scale unprecedented in human history because it affects the young. The risks and costs of this crisis are 1,000 times more threatening to our country than COVID. Autism is preventable, and it is unforgivable that we have not yet identified the underlying causes. We should have had these answers 20 years ago. Now, where everybody is capitalizing is how autism is preventable. Apparently, people are, health officials and media outlets are saying, no, it's not preventable. Well, in science, I think we need to evaluate that. If we were 1 in 200, then 1 in 100, then 1 in 36, and now we're 1 in 31, there's obviously something causing a change. And if we figure out that cause, it may be preventable. Now, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, and again, I am grateful for all of these networks and autistic societies and their great work, but they say autism is not a disease. You cannot catch autism. Well, I agree, you can't catch it, right? But they say it is genetic. They say we are born autistic. We are autistic our whole lives. Autism is a normal part of life. You cannot prevent or cure autism, and you should not try to. It is a waste of time and money and harms autistic people. Now, this is where I disagree. And again, God bless all the groups and all their advocacy and work to help the autistic population. But if autism is genetic, meaning it's a gene, you get it from a parent, we should then be seeing fewer numbers. Why are more genes then? If that's going to be the working theory, that it's genetic, and we have had studies saying this is genetic, not caused by vaccines, not caused by environment or cell phones. They're saying this is genetic. There's DNA behind this. Well, then, when a mom and a dad have a baby, the genes then, I don't want to use the word dilute, but if you have an autosomal dominant versus an autosomal recessive trait, there is an opportunity for genes to not be expressed the more you propagate and the more you have babies. So the numbers would then dilute or go down. Just like the Jews who were trapped in the Jewish ghettos in Warsaw, how when they, were, stuck for years of, trying to avoid persecution, they had cousins marrying cousins, not all of them, and so there were genes that couldn't get out. There wasn't enough diversity. This is why we don't, urge cousins or, sister brothers or there to be incestual relationships, because there's more of a chance for dominant genes to persist. But since that is not happening, and to the degree that it might have used to in the past, then the genes are starting to now weed out. Well, then why are the numbers going up? If it is genetic, then what is altering the genes? And is that altering mechanism preventable? And I do find it very interesting that this Autistic Self-Advocacy Network says you cannot prevent or cure autism, and you should not try to. Autistic individuals would like help. They would like to know why they have autism. So I am kind of confused at what exactly it is people want. Is it that they just want to be against RFK Jr.? Okay. We do have to evaluate this. And we do have to figure out if there is a preventable cause. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we have been going back and forth on whether ChatGPT or AI is going to help us medically, and if it is a good thing for you to go onto your computer to get diagnosed. And I've been mixed. I love the idea of people educating themselves. I know a lot of doctors are like, don't go to Dr. Google, don't go. If you want to learn about what you have, or if you want to investigate your symptoms, the more education, the better. I'm not worried about losing my job if you guys learn about things online. I want everybody to be educated, to be aware and understand that there could be certain things that can afflict you. I have had some people who were wrong. Somebody had called up having an eye rash, saying I have perioral dermatitis. And even though perioral is around the mouth and can sometimes have lesions by the eye, he had misspoken, saying he had periorbital dermatitis. And so I get that sometimes there could be a couple little mishaps, but not a problem. Us doctors are supposed to be able to sift through it and guide them. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But we now have a case where a woman says ChatGPT actually saved her life by helping detect something that doctors missed. Now, she's a mother of two. She credits that the artificial intelligence of ChatGPT flagged her condition, leading to a cancer diagnosis when doctors missed it. Now, according to Fox News, she divides her time between North Carolina and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And she first noticed last February that she was having trouble bending her fingers in the morning and the evening. After 4 months, the 40-year-old was told by doctors that she had rheumatoid arthritis, even though she tested negative for rheumatism. Now, she owns a marketing company, and she was also experiencing excruciating stomach pains. She lost 14 pounds in a month. Now, she wanted to figure out her symptoms, so she turned to ChatGPT. The chatbot told her that she may have Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune condition where the body's immune system attacks a thyroid gland, and then it ends up becoming inflamed and underactive. She says, despite reservations from her doctor, Bannon insisted on being tested on September 2024 and was shocked to discover that ChatGPT was correct. This prompted doctors to perform an ultrasound of her thyroid. They then found 2 small lumps in her neck that were then confirmed as cancer by October 2024. She claims she would have never found the hidden cancer without the help of ChatGPT. Now, I'm not here, okay, to toot my horn, but if she had come into my office, I would have found it. I know you guys are like, yeah, right, Dr. Daliah. You don't understand. I have found probably the most thyroid cancers in my neck of the woods because I always examine the thyroid. I always feel the thyroid. And if I think the thyroid is a little off, I get it ultrasounded. If I get it ultrasounded, an ENT will take a look at those spots that might look abnormal on the ultrasound and decide to biopsy it. And time again, people were asking, how come I pick it up? I'm not an endocrinologist. It's because I don't concentrate the whole exam, but I always check the thyroid. So this wouldn't have been missed by this family doctor. And I'm very grateful she did her own research. But my question is, how come the other doctors didn't? This is kind of a slam dunk. You feel the thyroid, you examine the thyroid. If it doesn't feel right, you ultrasound it. Or when you do a blood test on the thyroid, if the thyroid blood test is abnormal, you do an ultrasound. We run thyroid tests on everybody with their panel. If they have high cholesterol, if they have high blood pressure, if they have arthritis. So I don't know how this got missed, except the answer might already be explained. She lives in 2 different areas, the North Carolina and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So maybe she doesn't have a regular family doctor that she was seeing on a regular basis. Maybe that could be it. Somebody thought one of the other doctors already examined the thyroid. But you don't diagnose rheumatoid arthritis in a young woman who hasn't had her thyroid checked. It's on the panel. It's a given, not the arthritic panel. But if you're going to run a blood test, you always run everything else, the blood count, the comprehensive panel to look at the salts, also shows liver function, kidney function. So I'm really shocked that that wasn't already done. That's confusing to me. Now, she said that she needed to find out what was happening to me. She was so desperate that she went to ChatGTP. When she asked the chatbot about medical conditions that mimic arthritis, it said, you may have Hashimoto's disease. Ask your doctor to check your thyroid peroxidase antibody levels. And then after her cancer diagnosis, she underwent an operation to remove her thyroid, 2 lymph nodes from her neck. Now she's going to have monitoring, of course. And she saved her own life by going to AI. The problem I have, though, with this story is, we're doing medicine differently these days. And even though I'm a huge fan of telemedicine, in terms of people having access to talk to a doctor, I am not a fan of people using telemedicine as their primary physician and using telemedicine to skip going to the doctor and getting seen. These Cologuard, people ask me, Daliah, what do you think about Cologuard for colon cancer screening? I go, if you have somebody that never shows up to the doctor, will never go, it's something that could be done to hopefully alert them, look, you might have colon cancer. But it should not be a substitute for being evaluated for a doctor, being asked questions to see if you're at higher risk for colorectal cancer. Now, people will say, but I'm at low risk. Cologuard says I'm at low risk, so I could just use Cologuard. Okay, how do you know you're low risk for colon cancer? Well, because I don't have blood in my stool. Well, how do you know? Did you microscopically test it? Or are you just looking in the toilet? How do you know you don't have blood in the stool? Well, I don't have colon cancer and my parents don't have colon cancer. Okay, how do you know your parents don't have colon cancer? Well, they told me. Have they had a colonoscopy? No. They do Cologuard. Well, I can't say they're completely in the clear. Now, what about your grandparents? Oh, my grandfather died at age 40 of a heart attack. But he never had colon cancer. Well, maybe because he never lived till his 60s when it might have surfaced back then. So the problem I have is people say I'm low risk. And I'm like, how did you deduce you're low risk? I hope you're low risk. I want to agree with you. But what is your evidence that you're low risk? And most people don't have evidence. My father never wanted to get physicals done. He finally had to go because he was having issues and signs of low testosterone. And with those, men do not like low testosterone symptoms as it pertains to erections, as it pertains to muscle mass. And then it was obvious that he had diabetes. Finally, a blood test got done because he wouldn't let me do it. And then, well, if you have diabetes, you have heart disease. Dad, get your heart checked. No, I don't need to. I don't have chest pain. Not all heart attacks come with chest pain. And when he died, he didn't die because he had chest pain. He just didn't feel right. And he dropped dead of a massive heart attack. So, I am glad that we are having much easier access to education and patients could study, look things up, and now catch things that doctors aren't. But what you're going to be hearing in the media is how doctors miss this. Well, who were the doctors she saw? And what was I'm also seeing that a lot of patients are going straight to a specialist. Many insurances are allowing that, so you don't have to see a primary and get a referral. It makes it really easy on patients now, which I'm a fan of. But then the specialist is like, well, have you had a physical? Even though most rheumatologists will run thyroid tests. Like I said, I'm really shocked that I'd really like to see the medical records. And if she really saw doctors who were doing comprehensive evaluations, or was this all cut and paste? But you walk into a specialist, and then the specialist is assuming a primary care doctor did a full physical on you. And now people are able to just go right to the specialist. I'm having patients call up saying, I need you to order an MRI for my shoulder. And I go, what's going on with your shoulder? I have left shoulder pain. Now, my telemedicine company can't order MRIs. I go, left shoulder pain. Has anybody checked your heart? No, it's my shoulder. So just order the MRI and I'll see an orthopedist. I go, have you had an exam yet? So we got to get back to that. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So the University of Louisville has had to pay a $1.6 million settlement when a former professor was fired for being critical of transgender treatments for children who were experiencing perceived gender dysphoria. They fired, and now they got sued and now have to pay a settlement. When they fired Dr. Alan Josephson, according to New York Post, he worked there for 15 years. He was chief of the University of Louisville's Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and Psychology. You don't become chief of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and Psychology without knowing something about child psychology and psychiatry. According to this legal complaint, he was able to turn around the struggling division through his tenure, received perfect scores in his 2014 and 2016 annual reviews, but he got demoted in 2017 and eventually fired after he made comments challenging the push to use hormone therapy and surgery for children with gender dysphoria. This is according to the Alliance Defending Freedom. And ADF is represented Josephson in court, announced that the settlement agreement has hailed a major victory for free speech. Josephson said in a statement, I'm glad to finally receive vindication for voicing what I know is true and what has been echoed by other medical societies, including those in the UK. He says children deserve better than life-altering procedures that mutilate their bodies and destroy their ability to lead fulfilling lives. In spite of the circumstances I suffered through with my university, I'm overwhelmed to see that my case helped lead the way for other medical practitioners to see the universal truth that altering biological sex is impossibly dangerous, while acceptance of one's sex leads to flourishing. Now, according to the complaint, this began in October 2017 when he participated in a panel discussion on transgender ideology hosted by the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative organization. He spoke out against gender ideology activism influencing the medical treatment of children experiencing gender dysphoria. The officials at the university heard his, this was at the LGBT Center, pressured the division to take disciplinary action against him. Then he also appeared as an expert witness in a legal case involving a school's bathroom policy around gender identity. So because colleagues didn't like his politics, they put him up for disciplinary action. Then he got demoted. They belittled, berated him, according to the report, started to damage his professional career and reputation, and then they fired him in 2019. So this was a 6-year legal battle, finally ended up in a settlement. And, you know, what blows my mind is, okay, I have been a part of academia for most of my life. And beyond the politics, which I think is ridiculous how, you know, it seems to be so one-sided. What has always shocked me is that they wouldn't allow you to open up your point of view. You got silenced. Now, we're talking about a university where there's students, debate class. I mean, you're supposed to be able to ask questions. I was in the sciences. And in the sciences, you come up with a hypothesis, come up with a theory, you test it, you come up with results. Were you right? Were you wrong? It's not a right or wrong thing. These are questions in science that need to be answered. So what scares me about academia is if you can't ask the question, if you can't have another viewpoint, then that's not a true university. You know, we're talking about Harvard and funds getting cut for them allowing these protests and takeovers of campus. And people are saying, well, Dr. Daliah, Harvard does medical research with that money. Okay, first of all, they have billions of dollars. And how do we know the sliver of funds they're getting from Trump that's the only stuff, that's the only money going to research? Okay, really? You know, how do we know those funds aren't being used on salaries and buying extra office equipment and office lunches and trips and all the other stuff? Or the president's salary. So I'm not convinced because they have billions and billions of dollars. And, you know, granularly, if you have a university that doesn't understand that Jewish students have a right to learn without being obstructed, then they have no business being in academia. And then I don't want their research. It means it's tainted. If they are okay with students not being denied access to classes or being interrupted in their class, well, then obviously they have a contaminated process as it pertains to academia, doing the right thing, free access to education. That means, are certain Jewish students limited from the lab? It's tainted. I don't know if you heard about this, but a medical school in Jersey, right? I think it's the City College of New York. Their medical school campus had to be closed because of Gaza protesters. And a group of students had gathered. It got very heated and they had to close down the school. Now, our medical students, barely have enough time to learn everything they need to. So now you've allowed this to interrupt the process of kids going to school. Like I said, you know, if you were saying we need to be able to peacefully assemble under free speech, which I agree with, you could peacefully assemble. But something's not peaceful if they have to close down and students can't learn. There's something not peaceful about that. All universities should have an area where if people want to have their booths up or their, assembly, fine. But it's out of the way of people trying to get to class. But see, people don't want that. They want to interrupt. They want to disrupt. And going back to this, psychologist, I mean, you have somebody who is a chair of child psychology and adolescent psychiatry and psychology, who is obviously more versed than other people in that university in Louisville, who is saying, look, this could hurt the kids. Wouldn't you in academia want to say, let me listen in? Teach me. I appreciate a lot of my friends and family members who are the LGBTQAI plus community, but none of them want kids hurt. So who in this university wanting, and they're like, well, kids are being hurt if they don't get to undergo the transitioning and the hormones and all that. Okay, listen. Okay. Anybody that has ever had to take hormones or, went through puberty can tell you right now, it's not easy. I would not wish on any boy having to go through what girls go through. And vice versa. The hormones are not easy sailing. Removing breasts, removing body parts, not easy. Affecting your height, affecting your muscle cells. And by the way, we cannot medically turn you into a boy or turn you into a girl, a true biological girl with satellite cells and everything. We can't do that. Who you are biologically with your XY or XX is still not able to be 100% replicated in a lab, which means you're going to have issues. Nobody's talking about the risks of blood clots, risk of stroke, depression, anxiety with hormones. I mean, these are high-dose hormones you're putting these kids on. What's happening to the growth plates, their legs, their height? So if a child, a specialist, who's a chair has something to say, you listen. You don't fire him. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So Danny writes, what do you do if you catch your son put on your wife's makeup or lipstick? This is an interesting case. I'm not going to go through the whole email, but his son is 6 years old, and he found his son putting on his wife's makeup and lipstick. And the son won't talk about it. The son was embarrassed, ran off, and he's wondering, how do you approach that? Is that gender dysphoria? And so boys and makeup have been something that has been obviously misconstrued. I think a lot of boys will be intrigued by some of the things mommy does. Doesn't necessarily mean they have gender dysphoria. Some people with gender dysphoria, yes, may want to start dressing up as a girl, but you see, this is something that we do need doctors talking about. What does early gender dysphoria look like? True gender dysphoria, the amount of the population where you have a young child that wakes up, looks at their body going, this isn't my body, comes into their parents' room and says, this is wrong. Where is my, penis? Or how come I have this? That it's a very, very small part of the population. Some kids might, if they do have gender dysphoria, come in saying, but I want to wear a dress. I want to be a girl. I want to play with the girls. I don't want to play with the guys. Okay? And I told you how to handle that. Well, why? Are the boys being mean to you? Is it that you prefer dolls and tea parties or whatever the girls are playing? Which, by the way, as a girl, I hated that. I wanted to play with the guys. I couldn't stand tea parties and dolls. I hated Barbie. Beautiful blonde, I'm never going to be. Why is that doll doesn't represent me? And why would I hold something that's supposed to be a mini me? Okay? A mini me always had holes in her jeans, ripped up knees. See, I didn't wear a lot of skirts because I didn't like them because I wanted to play. And my mom would be like, no, people could see your underwear. So she would put me in skirts where they were shorts and skirts, and they were ugly because I wore a lot of grocery store clothes because my parents were poor. And I was like, let me then just wear pants so I could, fall off my big wheel and, do things without somebody saying I could see her underwear. It wasn't that I wanted to be a boy. I loved being a girl. It's just I liked hanging out with the boys. So, when you do have a child, that is, asking to do other things and things that you might not think fits the stereotypical gender, always ask why. I didn't want to wear a skirt because I didn't want people making fun of me when I would trip or fall or whatever, that they could see my underwear. So let me wear pants. And in the late 70s, early 80s, call me a tomboy. I really, though, wasn't called a tomboy because I still liked, I don't know what they did it. For some reason, I wasn't considered a tomboy. But personally, I just would rather play with cars and things my brother was playing. The Transformers were cool. Do you remember how you would take it and you would transform it from a car to a robot or something? I thought that stuff was cool. Way cooler than the girl toys. But my favorite toy was Big Wheel and Light Bright. I loved Big Wheel and Light Bright. But so if your child is coming up to you saying, look, I don't want to do this. I want to watch, football with daddy. That's not gender dysphoria. They want to watch football. Now, what about mimicking parents and what they do? So when I was 3 years old, I got in trouble because I tried to stand up and pee. And I peed all over my legs and floor. My mom got mad at me, gave me a whooping. What are you doing? I go, I have to pee like daddy. She's like, why? And I go, because I'm going to grow up to be daddy. She's like, no, I was 3. She said, no, you're a girl. You're going to grow up and be like mommy. And I didn't like my mom. So I was horrified by that. And then my sister comes in saying, yeah, and you're going to get boobies and you're going to bleed every month. I'm like, oh my God, hell no. But I got over it. And I was like, well, I guess I'm a girl and I'm very glad. Thank God I'm a woman. But as a young kid, I liked my dad more than my mom. So I wanted to pee like my dad. I wanted to do stuff with my dad. Now, a lot of girls do gravitate to their daddies, because moms, stereotypically, okay, this isn't all of it, but moms are always, protective. You can't act like that. You got to cross your legs. You can't sit like that. You'll get attacked. You'll get raped. You'll get this. Moms are always on your case, and then daddy could do no wrong. Boys, have the opposite. Now, okay, son, you got to do this. You got to learn how to do this. You got to learn how to do this. Listen to me. But whereas, oh, come here, baby. So, boys may be more mama boys and girls may be more, daddy's little girls. And there might be some boys who really, love their mom, love the smell of the makeup, and they might look at the makeup They might look at, my boys are boys from a gender standpoint. They've always been. But I remember when they were really, really little and I would be putting on makeup. They were fascinated by that. They didn't want makeup on them. Although my little one thought it was funny when I would take, we have that really soft brush, your blush brush. So I would take I would brush and I would, and it would tickle him and he would giggle. And moms do that. Didn't mean they want to be girls. They love the smell of the makeup because these cosmeceuticals have smells to make, women like them more. Go, oh, I love the way this smells, so I'm going to put it on me. It's all marketing. They thought it was fascinating that I could look the way I do waking up to the way I present myself going out. It was, and they were fascinated by it. But just once, and then they just went about their whole thing. But they just because they are, intrigued and looking at it and wanting to see what it's like, that's a curiosity. That doesn't necessarily mean gender dysphoria. So if you do catch your child kind of into something that might not necessarily be age appropriate or following their gender and sex at birth, ask them, don't yell at them, don't make them think they're getting in trouble, and said, talk to me, what was it about the lipstick? What, talk to me. Now, if you say, what were you doing? They're going to say nothing. They won't talk about it. But if you do notice that they want to dress up as a girl, ask them why. What is it about that? And when you really, start to dissect down what could be going on, and I've said this multiple times on my show, a young child doesn't necessarily understand sex and sexual desires and even having homosexual tendencies doesn't necessarily mean you're transgender. Wanting to be a completely different sex could be because they are being abused or assaulted or they're fearful of the other sex. If they get beat up in the boys' room and they see that the girls have a much easier life, yes, they're going to want to be a girl. But is it that they truly want to be a girl and not be able to have babies and breastfeed, or is it that they want to get away from the boys who are mean to them? Same thing with girls. I hated the girls' bathroom and the locker room. These girls were mean witches. And oftentimes I'm like, I could just go to the boys' room. It'd be easier. Doesn't mean I wanted to be a boy. So break down exactly what it is. And there is a certain percentage of the population that has true gender dysphoria, but it's a lot smaller than the media is making it out to be. Because nobody's dissecting down what exactly is it that's making people want to reject who they are biologically. 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.